Would you rather make $125 an hour or $200,000 a year plus bonuses and benefits? That's the choice one Salesforce architect faced in 2025. But that's not the only salary story worth knowing. I've got three real examples: a senior consultant at a boutique firm, a head of business systems at an enterprise financial services firm, and a lead developer architect caught between being a contractor and a full-time offer. By the end, you'll see how these numbers stack up, and more importantly, what actually drives those salaries higher. Let's start with a boutique Salesforce consulting firm. They offered this candidate a senior consultant role at $150,000. He asked for $165,000. Instead of shutting it down, someone in the C-suite got involved. The exec floated him for a different role, a pre-sales engineer role at $170,000. On paper, it sounds like a win, but it came with strings attached. A quota-carrying position, having to respond to RFPs, and always having the pressure of being tied to deals closing. It's a very different lifestyle than a delivery role. But before he could even be considered, the interview panel asked him to prepare a full case study of a Salesforce project that he'd run from end to end, and present it to them in front of a 5-person panel. So the trade-off wasn't just $150,000 versus $170,000. It was stability and delivery versus having higher pay and having sales pressure attached to the job. And to prove himself in a pretty tough and intense interview. My question to you is this: would you sit through a 5-person panel and take on that quota carrying pressure just for that extra $20,000? So that was for the boutique consulting firm. It was a smaller shop. This candidate had to jump through a series of hoops, and he had to make a tough trade-off between being on the delivery side as a consultant and a business analyst versus being a pre-sales engineer. But what happens when you move from consulting to being an in-house employee? This next story is not just asking for $15,000 more, but what happens when a VP of IT lays you off and your professional reputation is the only thing standing between you and a $250,000 paycheck. Let's talk about a reputable business systems leader. She's anything but a pushover. She advocates for her team. She's not afraid to speak her mind. And it also helps that she is incredibly technical. But even someone so widely loved at an organization can get caught up in office politics. At her old company, she was making around $250,000 plus bonuses and equity. But the role came with a 90-minute commute each way. Then the VP of IT laid off a ton of people at the organization just so he could bring in his friends, and she was out. She leaned on her network. She went straight to LinkedIn to signal to the professional world that she was interested in a new position. And because her reputation was so strong, her network came through. One mutual connection even went to her own C-suite and said, "I know we have a position opening up in 6 months, but we cannot wait. We've got to hire her now. Can we please accelerate the hiring position?" That's how much weight her name carried. She ended up getting a new offer at another organization, and it came in at $220,000 plus a 20% bonus, which is about $265,000 in total compensation. There's no sign-on bonus, which could have helped bridge that gap with her initial compensation, but it's still an incredible bounce back given the fact that she was laid off so recently. Your reputation is really your currency here, especially at the higher levels. If you build trust, your network will end up being there to catch you when you need it the most. What are your thoughts? Would you take a $30,000 pay cut if it meant a shorter commute time, you've had stronger leadership support, and you have that feeling of long-term stability? Or for you, is salary always going to be the deciding factor? Let me know in the comments. We've seen how much a candidate had to hustle to negotiate for an extra $15,000 at a boutique consulting firm. And we've seen how having a strong reputation helps you in the Salesforce enterprise space. But let's shift gears one more time. We're going to go to a gray area between the consulting world universe and the in-house universe, and that is in the world of Salesforce contracting. There's a third story I want you to hear. It started with a cold LinkedIn message from a staffing agency to a person for a lead developer / architect role at another financial services company. The candidate goes through 3 interviews, one with a Salesforce product owner, one with a techno-functional Salesforce architect, and their director of IT. After the first interview, they'd say that this person's too high level, even though the candidate clearly said that he could get technical. A few weeks go by, and the company cannot find a candidate that they're looking for. Then the IT director circles back and asks, is that guy that we had interviewed a few weeks back still interested? As it turns out, he was, and this time everybody on the panel loved him. As it turns out, the initial contract offer was for $75 an hour, which is about $150,000 a year. But the architect pushed back and said that he could not entertain anything less than $125 an hour, roughly about $250,000 a year. There's more. The company then offered, if he was interested, to convert him to a full-time role after the year ended at $200,000 a year, plus a 15 to 20% bonus, about 4 months of parental leave, a 7% 401k match, full benefits, and it's fully remote. So he went from $75 an hour to $125 an hour, and then he positioned himself for a highly cushioned full-time gig. So here's the question. Would you take $125 an hour right now, or would you rather convert that to the stable, benefits-driven, lower base salary compensation? Which one would you pick? So whether you're at a boutique firm, you're leading a business systems team at a financial services firm, or you are negotiating a contract to hire role, the key is knowing what your leverage is. If you found these stories useful, stick around. I'll share real-world Salesforce compensation breakdowns like this, so hit subscribe and you'll always have a benchmark to compare against. Thank you for watching.